Every year you learn the story of the Meraglim.
And it's mind-boggling.
Always you have the same question. How could they make such a mistake? What was the mistake of the Meraglim? An old Chinese story. There was two children that were playing outside the city. Kid falls into a ditch. So he says to a friend, you have to help me.
Yeah.
Get some of the men in the town to.
Yeah.
He said, but I'm going to forget where the ditch is. So let me try to find something I could. So he looks around and he says, I'm scared. He finds a rope. So he says, throw the rope, get me out. Kid says, but I'm 5 years old and you're 11. How am I going to get you out? So you have to save my life. So the kid puts down the rope and he schleps him up. And both kids come running to town and to tell all that they come to the center of town where there's a marketplace where you tell the news.
Yeah.
And they say the news with excitement, and all the people say it couldn't be. This little kid couldn't pick it. It's impossible. It's impossible. So some say it's possible. So there's so they ask the elder of town Kumtzitz again, and they say to him, "What do you think?" He says, "For sure it's possible. You guys were not there to tell him he can't do it." So the Meraglim,
they say such a marshal. They say, I mean, it's the Gayish motivational speakers. They say marshal from a bumblebee. A bumblebee is very fat and it has little wings. So according to the laws of engineering, it can't fly. You know. So what's the terror? He didn't learn engineering, so he flies.
After we learned Shabbos about the Shimshon HaGiboret, anything possible.
huh?
The Shimshon HaGiboret, you know, that she opened the lines and they took out
Yeah.
Shimshona, we call it Shimshona.
Yeah.
Shimshon HaGiboret.
Mela, it's a pelodik story. They projected their weakness on Klal Yisrael when they saw that Kechagovim Mayinu Be'ei, so they felt weak. So they thought, if we felt weak and we're the greatest guys, if we who are the smartest and the greatest of the people, we felt small, we felt intimidated, halachas kama v'kama, all the other people. But they miscalculated that the other people were not such big lamdonim like them. If they hadn't been moitzi diba, the people would have been happy to follow Moshe Rabbeinu into the land. So let's learn the first pasuk and the first rashi, and dissect the first rashi and understand the new way of looking at the story of the Meraglim. V'daber Hashem al Moshe Leimer. It's first pasuk in parshos Shelach lecha, and that's in Omid Kuf Aleph. Yeah. Shlach lecha anoshim yesud etzeretz Knan asher ani noisem levnei Yisrael ishachad ishach lamata v'esach shlocha kol nosim lahem. And the Torah goes through all the names of the people that were sent. V'shlachos haMoshe los etzeretz Knan v'emer aleim v'asul luza b'negev, and he tells them exactly what to search, and he gives them a list of stuff to return, and with the report that they should give. Okay. First Rashi. Shlach lecha anoshim. Rashi quotes 3 words. Shlach lecha anoshim. Lo menismacha parshos meraglim leparshos Miriam. Why did the Torah put the parshos meraglim right next to the parshos Miriam? Lefi Shelach salisei diba, because she was punished for iskei diba, for the business of speaking too much. Shedibra be'acher, she spoke about her brother. And these wicked fellows, Ra'u, they saw, they did not take any musa.
What is law?
They saw the story of Miriam. So, as usual, you learn a Rashi, it's an easy Rashi. If there's nothing there to understand, it's not some question, difficult thing of Menachem, Ben Donush, or Sorek, and that Machberes, or that Machberes, so weitergegangen. But if you look closely, like in every Rashi, if you take it apart, this is where the story really starts. So, Firstly, we know that Rashi is not bothered about smichas of parshyos. Hardly ever does Rashi say lama nismacha this parsha to that parsha. It's when some other question is bothering him. If there's something's bothering Rashi, and to understand that if you'll ask the question lama nismacha one parsha to the other, then Rashi will ask that question. Well, otherwise, Rashi doesn't ask it. Over here, it's a double shaila. First of all, what's bothering Rashi and lama nismacha, and second of all, what was the question lama nismacha? Something happened to Sunday, and the second story happened Monday. So you're going to ask, why does Monday come after Sunday? And why does Sunday come before Monday? When did the story of the Meraglim happen? Chof Tes Sivan. When was the last day of the Hezger of Miriam? Chof Ches Sivan. How many days is between Chof Ches Sivan and Chof Tes Sivan? Sunday to Monday. Monday to Tuesday. So your question is, Lama Nismacha, because nothing happened in between. True, you can't ask a question. When things are in the chronological order, finally, once the thing is really in order, why? Why? Because the day, Sunday is the story of Miriam, Monday was the story of Miriam, Chof Ches Sivan was the story of Miriam, Chof Tes Sivan was the story of the Meraglim.
Okay. So
The cheshbon that Rashi makes later in the volume, it's a simple cheshbon. If you go back, because you have to go back from Tisha B'Av and the days they traveled, in order to make the whole cheshbon shtim. Rashi even says, "Vehi ben tzoya derech shloishes yom." They went in b'yom echad because Rashi has to make the whole cheshbon shtim going backwards from Tisha B'Av. So really, these stories are chronologically one after the other. Miriam is a Chof Ches Sivan, Meraglim is Chof Tes Shiluach Meraglim. They come back 40 days later. That's Tisha B'Av. So the question, what's your question? Why these two stories are one after Lama Nismacha? Because they happen one day apart. So a double question. Rashi is never concerned about Lama Nismacha. Why over here does he ask? And specifically here, what's the question Lama Nismacha? One happened, the first story of Miriam happened Chof Ches, and the other story happened Chof Tes. And if you look at the details of Rashi, also Rashi is medayik certain things. For example, Rashi says, "Lefish loksa al iske diba." What kind of thing is shedibra ba'acher? What kind of funny language is this? Shedibra lashon hara, like Rashi says in Parshas Shmoi. Loksa Miriam shed lashon hara. Not only this time, Rashi letter says, "V'yoytzi diba sa'ora ra." So Rashi says, what's the lashon, the double lashon diba and ra? Rashi says because the word diba doesn't mean bad. That's what it has to repeat. Diba and say another word, ra. Chinuch dvarim. Yeshna l'toiva v'yeshna l'ra. So when Rashi says here, Lefisha loksal iske diba, don't think that iske diba means bad speech. Iske diba means just yapping, talking. It doesn't mean necessarily bad. It could be good. So why does Rashi just say shedibra lashon hara?
No, Rashi doesn't say the word lashon hara.
Why not?
There's no lashon hara here.
Why not? Why would Miriam? In Parshas Shmos he says Miriam spoke lashon hara. Chazal say it, and that's the lashon hamedrash. Rashi's mashana from the lashon hamedrash and Tanchuma. And Rashi adds shedibra b'acher. Who cares what she spoke lashon hara about her brother, about her sister, about Stam Chaim Yankel? And why is Rashi emphasizing Rishoyim Alolu? And what's the diuk in the Rov Aloylok Chamusa? And why does Rashi quote also Shelach Lecha Anoshim? Pashas Baloischa, when he asks Lama Nischa, just quotes one word Baloischa. And over here, Fakert, when you say the word Anoshim, Anoshim means Kshedim Hoyu. And now he wants to say it's Rishoyim, so.
But why you call everybody Reshaim? Caleb ben Yefune and Yoshua wasn't Reshaim. They tried to tell them not to speak and all this.
Right, he's not talking about those two. He's talking about the bad
He
one.
has to say Chelek Reshaim.
You're talking about the Chelek. No, you're talking about that Chelek. Not talking about the Tzaddikim. You're talking about the Rishoyim. Talking about the Rishoyim. The Ramban asks a question at the beginning of the Parsha. Simple question. What was the sin? These are the most pickable and despisable people. The Meraglim were suffering until today. There isn't a chait. When a Jew suffers, it's not a little bit over there from the Meraglim. So, but if you think about it, the Ramban says, well, what did they do? They were sent with a mission. Find out, a fact-finding mission. They came back, they laid out the facts. Why they were killed with a terrible death. What did they do wrong? And you'll tell me, because they made conclusions. They also said loy nuchalalas. They made conclusion. Who asked them to draw conclusions? So the Ramban says, first of all, we see vayas kol of his before they got to the conclusion. Kolov already smelt the dog. He already saw something's no good. How did he know? They didn't say anything yet.
He didn't carry anything. He didn't carry anything.
Yeah, jetzt schon gewusst, step is nicht gut. Yeah, but was ist geschehen? Well, they didn't say yet loy nuchalalas, and he even says that Rebbe, if you say they didn't say loy na'ala. They didn't say we're going to go again loy nuchal. You asked us our opinion, so we'll tell you in our opinion. B'derech hateva, if you want to ask us, loy nuchal, we can't. It'll be a miracle. We weren't talking about that. And you see, even Kolov, when he answered, he didn't say, well, naturally, it's very easy to win the war. Kolov said, and Rashi explains, afilo oimer asu salamas valu b'shamayim. Olei nala. Even if he says, take ladders and start climbing out. We're going to put the ladder. Take a ladder and start climbing into the heaven. We could do it. So, in other words, they didn't say you wrong, your conclusion was wrong, and naturally you could do it, or through some miracle. It was more than just a miracle that would be required. So what was Azoshla, and furthermore, even when they said Chozaku mimenu kivyochel klape mailo, and pshat, it doesn't have to mean that they said that they didn't believe in God. Again, they said naturally, if you talk about miracles or miracles, if you're asking us natural course of events, we think that that's no contest. And then
why the Meraglim says natural God cannot do it. I mean, we cannot do it. They saw natural, we went out of Mitzrayim.
Right.
Natural, we went to Yamsov. Natural,
They saw the Holy
everything
Sea.
the did.
But
So
here-
they knew the natural we could
Right.
do.
but they thought that here that you're sending us as a mission to find if we can win a war. So if you ask us how, if we can win a war, we'll tell you the facts. So firstly, they gave a list of facts. What was wrong? Now, secondly, even the conclusion. So they're just giving their conclusion based on their facts, and the bottom line is, people accepted it. So they're the ones that accepted it. So why is it so much the blame of the Meraglim? The people accepted it. Take responsibility. We keep on blaming the Meraglim for all Atzaras till today. In order to explain this, that's why Rashi says the first Rashi, Loma nismecha parshos Meraglim parshos Miriam. What's the question? The story of Miriam happened Chavtes, and the story of Meraglim happened Chavtes. Kasha is like this. We find that sometimes the Torah puts parshas apart. For example, Rashi says, why do we have the Hibin Soy all of a sudden just right there, middle of Baloischa? Kedei lahafsik ben Puronis lePuronis. Sometimes we don't want to put two parshas, even though chronologically it makes sense. We want to be mafsik. So here, if you're going to put the story of Miriam right afterwards the story of the Meraglim, it sounds like, they're, like Rashi says, Lismach zuluzu, loy malachamazu avzu. You would think that there's something that they have in common, these two, the Meraglim and Miriam. How could you say such a thing? They're so different. You see in the results, even though she was punished, she got the covet of 7 days. But when it comes to the Meraglim, firstly, they were Musa v'Geif. Secondly, all Klal Yisrael in that generation suffered. And thirdly, Ad Hayoim Hazeh, we suffer because of them. But still, one might say, okay, but they're equal. She made a mistake, they made a mistake. But the results of her mistake were not catastrophic. Their mistake, because Jews accepted their conclusions, was catastrophic. So someone might think that they are similar, and that's what Rashi quotes. So you might think that Miriam and them have something in common. So therefore the Torah should put them apart. So why does the Loma Nismacha, that's the question, why did the Torah put them together? You might draw the conclusion to think that there's something in common between Miriam and the Meraglim, and that is a terrible slap in the face to Miriam. The answer is that there is an important message here. Because without putting it together, you wouldn't know what was the sin of the Meraglim. The sin of the Meraglim was, it was 1 day apart, they should have known better. Because they saw a story that happened to Miriam. What was the story that happened with Miriam? So the question on the Miriam is that what did she do wrong? She overheard her sister-in-law say something. It sounded like her sister-in-law was really in pain over it. The way Rashi tells the story, she said, "Oy vey, I feel bad for their wives." Why do you feel bad for their wives? You should be, their wives should be flattered. Apparently, it was not so ay ay ay, right? So she heard that her sister-in-law was in pain, and the Torah says, "I nasalo yigro." That's what Torah says. You have to treat your wife well. And she hears that her brother is not taking care of his wife. Ata girsha. So she had a complaint against her brother. So what was so? And she said only the by Moshe Rabbeinu the Eivisha spoke. Le'niskaver laganoise Chazal say. Rashi brings it. So what was Azoi? So therefore Rashi says it was iske diba. She was yapping too much. She was talking too much. So you could, in other words, you could look at it in a few ways. One is, what are you talking to this one, that one? You're talking a whole theory. Go over to Moshe Rabbeinu. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, go over quietly. Talk to him. Talking to Ada, and you're giving him a whole long story. That's iske diba. We're not talking about Lashon Hara now. Lashon Hara and other Rashis. But what the Meraglim should have learned from this story is like this. And another point here. When Miriam saw what happened, there's two ways she could look at it. Myself and my brother on the same level, and therefore I don't understand what he's doing, and obviously what he's doing is wrong. Or she could say he's head and shoulders above me, and there's no way I can understand his milus, and therefore obviously what he's doing is right. She chose the latter. She chose to say that me and my brother are on the same level. That's what Abisha later gave her, rebuked her, said, you should have known better. You and your brother are not on the same level. Even though you're a prophetess and he's a prophet, his prophecy stands out. Tmunas Hashem Yira, he's Loikin Avdi Moshe, is a different level of prophecy. You should have known that he's at a different level, therefore you should have not questioned him. So this is what they.
She didn't know that he is higher than everybody else.
It's hard.
After what you saw, everything?
That's what Rashi says. It was a brother. It was a brother. You know, you have a little brother. I learned that with my brother.
Yeah.
It was a war. I never realized that. My brother's a great chavrusa. I love learning with him. But why did I not realize how long? It was my job. I used to give him a bath. If I didn't give him a bath, this guy never would go a month without the. He was a little boy. When I used to give him a bath, he had a bath. When I took care of him, he was taken care of. When you have 8 kids bouncing around the house. So I used to take care of my little brother. When I started to learn with him, and I realized that this guy is something else. He's something else. But in my mind, this is my little Michi. I take care Thursday night. I used to take off his clothing, and I hack him in the bathtub, soap him up, wash him up, get him dressed, put him in bed. So that's what a little brother. There's a little brother. So and a person really should know their own milus. It's Friedrich Rebbe said it's a terrible. Equally as harming to focus on your milus and to only focus on your chesronis. A person has to equally focus on their strength and their weakness. So she knew her strength also, and she thought that Moshe. Naturally, it's hard to realize that your little brother is really in a different league. So therefore, she made that mistake. But it was a mistake on 2 levels. Number one, when it came to evaluating herself towards her brother, she should have realized that he was head and shoulders above her. Therefore, when there was a shaila about his hanhaga, and the question was to learn this way or that way, she should have understood that it was something that she couldn't understand. And on a second level, when she had a problem, she should have spoken quietly to him, not a long speech to someone else. That's iske diba. Rashi's not talking about Lashon Hara. True, it was Lashon Hara. But that's not the point right here. The point was that these Rishonim, they saw a lesson from one day earlier. They should have learned a lesson. The same thing here, when they went to Eretz Yisrael, they thought these were the great guys. They were picked by God. Al Pi Hashem. They were Anoshim, Cheshuvim. So they know everything. All of a sudden, they felt small. So they projected their weakness in all Klal Yisrael. If we see, everyone must feel small. But wait a minute. Why don't you, if you have a shaila,
Come to Moshe.
Come quietly to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, listen, these things don't compute. We have a maskona. We have the facts, and we have our evaluation. And we're about to give a report. But they didn't do that. They spoke a lot. And in their speaking, they put in all this, they kvetched in everything. They said, Amalek Yoshev. Rashi says, why did they say Amalek Yoshev? Don't think it was innocent. They just gave them the lay of the land. Amalek Yoshev here, and this one is Yoshev there. Rashi says, Lefisha nichvu ba'amalek. Hiskirum araglim k'dei leyarum. They know how to speak. They were master politicians. There wasn't just facts that they set up, A, B, C, D. They put in the facts. They laced it in heavy because they wanted to make the punchline at the end. That's why Kolov didn't let them finish their sentence. Because Kolov could hear there was already too much gravy here in the story. And he could see where it's going. So that was their mistake. You think you're so great. Now you have a weakness and all of a sudden you think it's impossible. But just one day earlier, the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu to write a parsha in the Torah, the parsha of Miriam, and you saw it. And you should have taken Musa from that. You should have taken Musa from that. They didn't take Musa from that. It was a similar, in other words, in a certain sense, they were very similar. The story of the Meragel and the story of Miriam. It's Iske Diba. Again, you have the number one is the person evaluating themselves. Miriam thought of herself very big compared to Moshe, and therefore she didn't give him the benefit of doubt. Same thing here. They thought of themselves very big. Therefore, when they had all of a sudden a crisis in faith, they projected it in all Klal Yisrael. And the same thing by Miriam. Just like by Miriam, she was talking too much to too many people, Same thing by them. They would, instead of talking quietly to Moshe Rabbeinu, they laid out a whole thing, and they laced it with all their the sort of the subliminal messages quietly, and then they got to their punchline. That's why they were punished. Because it is showing a little rov v'lo chumusa. Yeah.
It just came in my mind. Kalef vayahas Kalef et ha'am. Yahas Yud Het Samech 66. Shesh in Hebrew. Shesh Shin and Shin and Shah. He did Yahas.
Very good. Very good. Rashi says that's what he said. He said shh.
Oh, yeah, Rashi said that?
Yes, he says. Yeah. Rashi says. He said. So when we were kids, we used to love that Rashi. Rashi says, a person that wants to get the people quiet.
Don't shush me.
That's what Rashi says. Anoshim.
Yahas, זה 66. Shah.
Vayas is 76.
No, without Vav. Yahas.
Oh.
Vayas is Vav HaChibur.
Okay.
When we were kids, we used to learn it Hatoma, But this is Rebbe, what are you talking about? This is what Rashi says. I guess it's in the Havoda in France when they say shh. I was like, So that's the story. And to answer, that's what Rashi says, is to answer the question of the Ramban. The Ramban, what was the sin of the Meraglim? So the answer is that they had a story of Miriam that happened one day earlier, and they should have learned from that story. Another point here in the words of Rashi, it says, what's the idea in Ro? Because the question is just a simple question that anyone should ask on the story of the Meraglim. Didn't they know all this? When they went out of Egypt, they said, they said that all the people of Canaan, they just sang it in the song of Oz Yosher. We're talking the beginning of the 40 years. It just happened 1 year earlier. They knew that the people of Canaan were powerful, and they knew that the people of Canaan were melting from fear. They knew all the facts. So what happened that all of a sudden they were so fearful? But our sages already told us that they heard about it. When they saw it, all of a sudden they had a crisis. So that's why Rashi emphasizes that this is what the Torah is telling us. That Re'iyah, why was the story of Miriam not powerful? You saw the story of Miriam. Why was that not powerful enough to help you withstand the Nisoyan, to not have this crisis in your faith?
Why we call them Rishonim? Why they are Rishonim? They are Tzadikim. No, Anoshim. Anoshim is the highest level.
Very good kasha. Very good kasha.
I mean, it's like it all comes down to Negiyas. They have their own interests, so they only want to hear, death things, and they disregard the rest, to quote the Simon and Garfunkel. He hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest.
But the story of Miriam, that's why we're telling us the story of Miriam. The way the Rebbe said it is just a beautiful way, the wording it. The lesson of Miriam is, if you don't know, don't speak. If you're going to speak, make sure before you speak that you understand it correctly. So that was a story. They saw a story of Musa with Miriam, and they didn't learn the lesson.
Maybe the story of Miriam happened just there, just to teach them.
Oh, very good. So obviously, so you could say, well, it just happened, but in Pshat, like this, Rashi holds there's a machlokes in the Gemara. How did the Torah was Megillah Chasuma Nitna or Megillah Nitna? How did the Torah come to us? Did every story that happened, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote up the story in a Megillah, and that was like, or is it that after 40 years Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the whole thing from Bereshis till the end? Rashi says clearly Megillah Nitna. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu right away after Mount Torah wrote Bereshis, all the way down to Yisroi, and then he kept on writing the parshos as the story unfolds. And if that's the case, so Moshe, the Chazal said, was Azaris, was very quick. So presumably after the story of Miriam, right after the story, he sat there and wrote it down, Al Pi Hashem, Biad Moshe, that he wrote down Megillah, he wrote down the story immediately. So the way, according to Rashi, this is like the last Megillah, the last story that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote was the story of Miriam. And they saw, obviously, in 48-hour period, in the Midbar with 600,000 Jews, just men, there were a lot of stories that were happening. The Midbar Gazette or the Shvatim Times. So it's they had stories. They had a magazine like this. They had a newspaper like this, weekend newspaper. There was a lot of stories. But in the Torah, the last story that was written as a Megillah was the story of Miriam, to teach them a lesson.
Yes, and why would you think, instinctively, they would equate Lashon Hara about somebody else, but they're talking on themselves, and they're talking on the land, which is an inanimate thing. Why would you think they would equate that with talking about another person? Even in a common day, Musar, we see Lashon Hara about someone else kills 3 people.
We said, that's what we just said. Well, we're not talking about Lashon Hara here. That's what Rashi emphasizes. Moitzi diba, we're not talking about Lashon Hara.
What are you doing?
We're not talking about Lashon Hara. We're talking about a woman who overestimated her own intelligence, her own nevius, compared to Moshe Rabbeinu, and therefore when there was a choice to judge him one way or the other way, she chose the other way. And also, when she had a choice to talk to him quietly or to talk publicly, she was so confident that she went and spoke publicly and at great length, Moitzi Diba, instead of talking quietly to him. These people did exactly the same thing. They thought very highly of themselves. So therefore, when they had a crisis, they projected it on Klal Yisrael, and it never occurred to them that there is 2 ways of reading the story. There's 2 ways. For example, they came and saw. They said, every day people are dying there. And people, it's a Eretz Yochanan Yisrael. So now she says that was really a miracle. What was the miracle? You have 12 funny fellows coming through your country. Well, this is not, we're not two quiet guys from the Mossad coming here. These were 12 guys from the desert walking together. So this is not the most intelligent spy mission. Everyone could spot them. So the Eibishter made a miracle that people were dying left and right, so they were busy burying their fellow countrymen, so they weren't looking at the Meraglim. So they had a choice to look at every story and read it in two ways. Just like Miriam had a choice to read the story of her brother in two ways. She picked the wrong reading of it. And had she come quietly to her brother, he would have explained to her the correct reading. Same thing here. But she never went because she was overconfident in herself. Same thing these people. Every one of the facts that they saw could be read in several ways. Like the fact that people are dying every day. They thought, this is a place there is malaria all over, there's yellow fever all over, there's tuberculosis all over, everyone's dying every day. But they didn't realize, no, it was a special miracle. People were dying every day for them.
I understand something, but am I right if I can say the whole thing emanated from the fact that they didn't belong in that mission to begin with? They requested permission to go on a mission that they weren't supposed to go on to begin with.
Okay, so that's a separate issue. We're now trying to understand the Rashi and the Ramban. The Ramban's question was, what was the fault of the Meraglim? They were sent on a fact-finding mission. They came back with a message. And as the Rebbe explains, that's what Rashi is trying to address, the question of the Ramban. And this is really a question that anyone might ask in the story. And the answer is that that's why the Torah put the story of Miriam right next to the story. Naturally, you should put them apart, because the slap in the face to Miriam that she should be put sandwiched with the Meraglim, they're put together. No, but it was done in order to teach you what was the avla of the Meraglim, that was the last story that just happened. That was the last Megillah was there. They should have learned a lesson from that. And the problem was that their own hubris, they were the gaiva, that they thought of themselves very highly, that they can interpret every story. And they were moitzi diba, therefore they interpret every story the wrong way. And then they laced it heavy when they came to the report, and they made a conclusion.
Why when Moshe sent them, he told them, do this, do this, do this, but please, when you come back, come to me and report to me. If you would tell him that, the whole story will change.
If you tell him that, he would sound like Hugo Chavez, He would sound like Fidel Castro.
Why? I'm sending you to do this.
He would
this,
sound
this,
like Mo Zedong, it would like, I'm sending you on a mission, you guys have to think on your own, but don't think, come to me.
No, whatever you see, you come to me and you report to me. I'm sending you, report to me.
What's wrong with that?
It's not wrong.
Nobody, they weren't sent by the.
What do you think? If the Mossad, the head of the Mossad sent for operation, they come back to the head of the Mossad, they sit together, and they said, we did this and this and this we didn't do. Always we went to operation in the army, somewhere, action or something, we came back to the commander. We told him this happened, this.
Because in the army, it's not a democracy. In civil society, it doesn't work that way. The Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to come across as top-down. But if they had a crisis, they didn't. If they had the humility to realize that they're in crisis, they would have come to Moshe Rabbeinu. But Moshe Rabbeinu, again in Pshat, if Moshe Rabbeinu tells him you have to come report to me, and you're not giving the report straight to the people, everyone say, he's going to cook the books, he's going to.
You can win regardless.
I used to go in the Bronx. I used to go to nursing homes. So two types of nursing homes: the honest ones and the not such honest ones. Honest ones, when the reports come from the doctors and the hospitals, so they would deliver the mail right away to all their patients. The not such honest ones, they keep the mail bazich. Why would you ask the Meraglim to come report to you? They're coming to report to the people. Okay.
We'll send you. The people are on the Moshe.
Moshe, in the name of the people.
That doesn't sound right. Like, if you send military spies to spy out an area, so the people, you don't bring this information to the people because they're simply not qualified.
They don't know nothing.
To analyze, to not figure that you have to bring it to the officers who are experienced and they know how to use the information.
Yeah.
You don't bring it to the.
They'd be court-martialed if they gave it to the wrong person.
Okay, I hear.
Maybe that's why the Rebbe never went down to Israel. He didn't want to be a spy.
Okay, another pshat.
But
Here
that's why he didn't win. You can't say it. That's why he didn't win.
Why?
The Rebbe answered.
Because they need them in America to help the Yidden in America be from, right?
It's a visit.
Isn't that what the Rebbe said?
A visit, not aliyah, a visit.
He answered it also.
Yeah, why?
Otherwise, there will be a part to go out.
Come back.
At the end of the day, the question is, how come Miriam was really put in the same company as the Marak? So there is a Gemara, all the Rishonim, this is like, one of the juicy sugyas in Shas, where there's two sugyas that seem to collide here. The Gemara says, Ein oidem lo la'odem chatei kedei she'izake chaverecha. Chet chal. You don't tell a person to sin, a little sin, in order to help out his friend. On the other hand, the Tosfos says in the Gemara, other way, in the other Gemaras, it sounds that you do have to sin in order to help your friend. Tosfos brings a few Gemaras. For example, the Gemara says that the Talmid Chochem, that the Amoritz takes from him the fruits, and then he realizes that he didn't take Meiser. So he goes quickly and he makes Meiser in his own house, even though it's Shaloim and Amukif. He's not doing it the right way. It's a sin. He does a sin in order to save the. He does a little sin in order to save the Amoritz from doing a big sin. The Amoritz will eat the fruit; they'll be without Truma Samai. A big sin. If he's going to take the Truma in his own basement, and the fruits have to be together when you do it, so that's a small sin. He does a small sin in order that the other fellow shouldn't do a big sin. The Gemara says that a person that has a servant, a shivcha, and she's a chetze, shivcha v'chetze baschoyne. For example, two partners got a maid, right? And one of them decided not interested, so he let her go free. So she's half a baschoyne. So now, what's the problem with this woman?
The other half is shivcha.
One half is shivcha. That's not. She can't marry anyone. She can't marry a free man. She's a shivcha. She can't marry a eved. She's a half baschoyden.
That's a problem.
So what happens? Terrible things start happening, and she starts going out with guys, and this is good. So we say, we tell the Balabayas, you can release her from her servitude. So effectively, it's forbidden to just let a slave go. It's forbidden. A goy, not if you have a goyish slave, it's forbidden. They said no, because this is a chet kal compared to the chet chomer that the other people are doing. Other people are doing terrible sins with her, and because I know that it's my responsibility, because she's my shivcha, so I should do a little sin in order that they shouldn't do a big sin. So Tosfos says, so you see, so which one is it? Is it that I never sin for my friend, or sometimes I do the little sin in order to save him from a big sin? Tosfos answers several answers. There's a few opinions in the Rishonim how you go with this. One of the opinions is the Rivah. The Rivah says depends if he already sinned or not. The Gemara says if a person already put the bread in the oven, but it didn't bake yet, so I'm not allowed to go with a spatula and take it out, which is a small sin compared to the big sin. Once the bread is bread is baked, but because he already did it, the action was done. It was done. We say that's it. It's over. It was done. Was done. But if he didn't sin yet, those fellows didn't sin with the servant with the shivcha yet. So I should do a little sin in order they shouldn't sin. And the Rebbe says that's Rashi's opinion. How do we know that that's Rashi's opinion? And Rashi says when it says Rashi says we don't say we don't say you should sin in order for the other guy not to get a punishment. We're talking about punishment. We're talking about sins. It's Elamite because Rashi must hold like Tosfos. If it was not an issue of punishment, if it was before the action started, you should sin in order not the other one shouldn't sin. You sin in order the other guy shouldn't sin. Well, if already the action was done, it's only a question of punishment, then we say forget it. Stand back. It happens to me that this is very relevant la halacha. What is it relevant la halacha? You'll see in a second. What is it la halacha? It's brought in la halacha Shulchan Aruch. That a person who knows Rahman al-Islam, that his daughter was captured in the church, and if he would travel, he can go to court, he can get her out before, because those days, once Rahman al-Islam, they spritzed a little of that dirty water on someone, That was it. The way back was very difficult. There was, it was pikuach nefesh. They considered once he already became a Christian, that was, But if before conversion, a father could come to court and try to get his daughter out. It was not fear. She was kidnapped from me. So Rahman al in Germany, there was this. There's a Tumas Hadesh and says in Rabbi Yochanan Marsov, the end of Shemvov, the guy should not only is allowed to be machal Shabbos in any way, but he's obligated. And not only the person is obligated to machal Shabbos for his own daughter, even for someone else's daughter, he's chayav to be machal Shabbos in order, because we say chatei. In this case, we say you sin for someone else. Okay. Now the Rebbe says, "B'shvil mitzvah deravim lahatz ravim achet." For sure, you're allowed to do it. Okay. So here, by the way, this is a very relevant question today in Chabad houses. This is a lot of times as a shliach, there's things you have to do that are perhaps not always acceptable under regular circumstances. But if you're not going to do those things, you're never going to be able to bring Jews to start keeping Torah mitzvahs. So obviously the details you have to talk to your local Orthodox rabbi, competent Orthodox rabbi. But there is this concept when a person is obligated to go do a chet kal, which according to Rashi and the Tosfos, the Riva is if it's before. In this case, this girl didn't shmatzach yet, right? That she didn't go through the shmad. So then a person is obligated to go and to be machal Shabbos in order to save her. There's interesting, and the last Noah Torah has a booklet they give out once in 2 weeks, Ha'oros B'Yurim. So there's a shliach in Bellevue, Washington, and he's a Mordecai Talmid Chochem. He has a very big Chabad house, a successful shlichus. Made many Baalei Tshuva, and he wrote Svarim also. He writes Svarim. I don't know, it's time for everything. He wrote an article about this shaila. So interesting. He brings a letter from the Rebbe to a fellow. He said that he was walking by a shul, and unfortunately, those days there was such a thing. There were people. They weren't Shomerei Shabbos, but they used to come Shabbos morning early to shul, and they used to have a minyan. They daven, and then Rahman al they used to drive to work. Today, it doesn't, they haven't maybe reform. You have, such, but otherwise, the others Shomer Shabbos was the base from the Chayas Nish. Then there was still first or second generations Europeans, or maybe even third generation. So they came to shul, they davened, and then they went to work. So vice is that they didn't have a minions. They went out. They called us a Zafrum Yid, and he came in. They asked him if he can go over to the Omid. Why? Because they said they're all not Shomer Shabbos, so they knew that there's a problem. They should daven to the Omid. So since he's a Shomer Shabbos, they asked if he could daven for the Omid. So he said, "What? You guys are Machal Shabbos?"
I'm not davening it.
Yeah, he left. So then he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, like bragging about his. He guess he wrote the letter to the wrong guy. So
Before the movement started.
This is early years, very, very early years, yeah. So the Rebbe gives him a whole musar. The Rebbe goes through this thing that there is a concept of chatei chayet kal kadesh yizaka chaverecha, and the Rebbe says that in this case, it was incumbent upon him that he should have stayed in the shul and davened for these people. So bringing it back to so as I said, this is a relevant. This thing of chatei chayet kadesh yizaka chaverecha is a relevant thing. In other words, what does it mean in a spiritual sense? That sometimes I have to get hurt in order to help another Jew. What does it mean, chatei chet? That I'm getting hurt. But I'm obligated to do it in order to save another Jew. Again, we have to know which circumstances and when and what, but the Rashi holds of this concept. Rashi only says, if already the chet happened, now it's only about the oynish, forget about it, stand back. But if the chet didn't happen, he didn't sin, she didn't sin, they didn't sin yet, you're obligated to get involved, even if you're going to suffer, you're going to get hurt. Be obligated to get involved in order to save another Jew, because that's your responsibility. So now bring it back to Miriam's but that you could say this is from the. You could say that this lechedudi. We could say that this is the story that's happening here. How come we put Miriam in the company of the Meraglim? because it didn't happen yet. As we said before, Rashi says that the Torah was getting Megillah. So before the story of Meraglim, it was even though she is sort of getting a little bit of a slap in the face here, that she's being put in the company with the Meraglim, but because this is going to have potentially, we were hoping that that's going to teach them. There'll be lokhu musar. They're going to. What does it mean musar? Musar doesn't mean retroactive. After, it means before. When you give a child musar, you tell them, listen, boychik, you don't go out there at night because it's dangerous. You don't tell them later after it happened. That happened. Kid went out and got hurt. He got hurt. Before, the day before, you tell them, listen, don't go there. It's dangerous. Don't do this. It's dangerous. So that's a shot. That even though l'chayr it's a slap in the face for Miriam, but
Why is it
they
a
wish
slap in the face?
because she's put in the same company the Meraglim. Sichos parshyos, as we spoke in the beginning of the shir, that we don't put two stories together to be in the same company unless we must do so. So here, why did we do it with Miriam and the Meraglim? Because it was before the Meraglim. It happened on Chav Ches. So we wanted to save the Meraglim. So we say Chatei Chet Gal. Sort of Miriam was going to get hurt a little, but to try to save another Yid. That's the lesson that we take from the story. That's the lesson that we take. Exactly.
Where did they merge the stories?